everybody, it's Allison. Today I'm coming at you from my bedroom. Both kids are napping. It's that time of the day where things overlap for me for about 35 or 40 minutes while Emmett takes his first or second nap of the day. So I thought I would do this quick video for you while I have two hands. And right now Brittany's on a work call downstairs and this is my option. So here we are. Another view of our house. So I felt inspired today to talk about what our first therapy session can look like. So it's different for everybody. Every practitioner has their own style, has their own flow. So I wanted to just share what mine looks like because I think all of us kind of operate in some sort of similar vein. So I'm going to talk about me and just know that probably most other therapists run their first sessions this way. So I guess I also wanted to talk about for a minute how to find a therapist. So obviously if you're wanting some support right now, you can always reach out to me. I can either refer you out or give you some options about people that I know. Or just like depending on the situation, like perhaps you would be able to come see me for therapy. Typically I don't see people that I know really well in real life, just because the beauty of going to a therapist is that you are able to paint your own picture about what your life is like, and it can get a little like hairy if I have my own information about what's going on for you, because in therapy what the most important thing is that you are heard and you are seen and you are understood without any sort of judgment. And so that typically I don't see people that I know really well in therapy because that can cloud that sometimes. Anyway, this is not a public service announcement for my therapy services, but anyway, that's an option, I guess. Or you can, share me with your friends that maybe don't know me. Anyway. So to find a therapist, it's always good to ask your friends and family because that personal connection is so important. You can also go to Psychology Today. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. And you can go and search for people in the community, and they have a little bio, a headshot, talk about their specialties. So that's another way that you can just find a therapist in general. And usually on there that has I know it has their contact information, and you could either call or email and just, inquire and see if they're accepting new clients. So that's sort of the first step, is finding somebody that you want to go to. I always say this in my first sessions I don't say it quite like this, but basically, seeing a therapist is a lot like any other relationship in your life where you kind of know if you like somebody right away or if you don't. So it happens sometimes when you schedule an appointment with a therapist and you meet and you just know that like the vibe isn't there. You don't, like, for whatever reason, it's no one's fault. Just like any other relationship in your life, right? It just isn't there. So the spark's not there. So you have to keep going. So I guess just know that that's an option too. When you finally do connect with a therapist, hopefully it works out and hopefully you feel seen and comfortable and feel like that person's going to be able to help you. But just know that that doesn't always happen on the first try. So you set up your first appointment. Usually, everything is weird now because we have this pandemic going on, but usually you would call the office and they would take down, whoever answers the phone would take down just some basic information, your insurance information, typically like a sentence or two about what's going on. That obviously that's not really a time that you have to like share every single thing. You could just say, I've been feeling depressed, or I'm having a lot of anxiety about everything that's going on in the world right now, or just, a few sentences, because that helps the therapist they will place you with better just understand if it's going to be a good fit, because not every therapist treats every single type of issue. So you do that, you give your info, and they would set you up with somebody, or they would refer you, and that therapist would call you to set up your first appointment. So obviously almost everything right now is video. There are some unique situations, I think, where you would need to be seen face to face. But I can just speak for me. Everything has been a video call. So I use Zoom, a secure, like a HIPAA secure Zoom link for my initial intakes. That's what it's called, an intake appointment. I know other people who have, perhaps they have a different, like an app or a different modality that they use. You would be connected with that. So basically it's just like a FaceTime call or anything else. You would log on at the right time and there your therapist is. Pop up right there in your bedroom maybe. So I always like to kind of set the stage and set expectations for my new people that I'm seeing, because as I have been on both sides of the couch, I have been both obviously a therapist as I am now, and I've also been someone who's been in therapy with lots of different kinds of therapists. Like, I guess I sort of know firsthand what it feels like to kind of walk in there and feel that, I don't want to say anxiety, although that could be like as intense as it can be for some people, but just sort of like uneasy, like you're hoping that it's going to go well, like what are they going to ask me, whatever. So I just like to kind of, I talk first. I set the stage for them. So, I introduce myself and I share, a little bit about me and what my process is like. I as a therapist am super, what's important to you is important to me. So I don't typically come into a session with a specific agenda. Like, we must talk about this. Some therapists operate that way. And especially when you're doing a certain type of therapy, you kind of have to follow that sort of structure. But typically for me, I'm able to just sort of, sit with the person and kind of gather what's going on and go from there. So that I like to share that with people so that they know that's one of my, that's kind of how I operate. I talk about confidentiality because there are some things that we are, legally and ethically unable to keep private, but everything else that you would share with your therapist can be kept private. Because that's the point of everything. If that's the point of seeing a therapist, right? If you, there is a specific reason why you're needing to come to therapy, and typically that is because you perhaps don't have anybody else in your life that you can talk to about a specific situation or a specific feeling, or you just don't know who else to turn to. So knowing that your information is kept private is paramount to the whole process. So I sort of talk about that a little bit. I like to write notes while I meet with somebody, and I sort of talk about that, and I'm not doodling your face. I'm just jotting down little notes for me to remember so that you don't have to say, your dog's name 97 times so that I can remember it. I'll have it all in my notes. And I, say, if you're ever curious what I'm writing down, ask me. This is your information that I'm gathering. So, you're really in the driver's seat. I talk about appointment length. Typically, the first appointment can take a little bit longer, but a typical therapy session lasts about between 50 and 60 minutes. A therapy hour is a little bit shorter than a real life hour. So just to set that time boundary, and I have clocks all over my office, and obviously for meeting from home, you can know what time it is. It's not like the casino where I'm trying to not let you know what time it is, and you're not locked back in my therapy office, and obviously you're not locked in your own room with me. If you decide you can use the full time, some of that time, it's totally up to you. And then so I sort of lay the expectations, and I say, today we're just going to talk about what's going on with you now, what's gone on with you previously. I'm going to ask you lots of different questions. Feel free to answer as much or as little as you feel comfortable with right now. This is, your time to help me understand what's going on with you. So it's very open-ended. And then typically I'll just say, where do you want to start? And for some people, the floodgates just open, and I just, I sit and write and listen. And for other people, they sort of struggle with how to start. So then I'll ask, some leading or open-ended questions, like, tell me what's bringing you in today. What have you noticed? And with each thing that someone shares, I like to gather a little bit of information about it. Like, how long have you been feeling this way? Like, how many days of the week are you feeling this? Or was there a particular event that happened for you and then you noticed these feelings happening? Or stuff like that, because that helps me just understand in general what's going on, but it also helps when you're thinking about a diagnosis. You know, you have to meet certain criteria. So I like to just sort of let the person speak, and then I'll kind of ask the clarifying question that I feel like I need in order to understand. I'll do a lot of reflection to make sure that I am understanding what you're saying, because it's important that we're both looking out the same window, you know what I mean? So that I can truly try to understand what's going on. A lot of reflection, a lot of clarifying questions, information gathering. If you're coming into therapy because you've experienced a trauma, like you have experienced a trauma, you can imagine whatever kind of trauma you want. I like to it's important for me to understand the framework of that. However, I typically don't, it can be unsafe to kind of just like jump right in the deep end and kind of like swim around and all of that, because what's most important when treating that kind of issue, well, all situations that come up in therapy, is our relationships. You want to make sure that the relationship and the rapport is there before you kind of dive deep into any really, really big issues. However, you kind of play that by ear. But obviously it's important for me to know what's going on or what has gone on. So we talk about that. We talk about history, talk about perhaps family history, to know if there's anybody in your family that's had mental health needs, challenges, illness, previous therapy, if you've ever been in therapy before, what was helpful, what wasn't helpful, things that you have tried to help improve your own symptoms, helpful or not helpful. Again, it's a lot of just information gathering. There are no right or wrong answers in therapy in general, but especially not in this, not in your first appointment. It's literally just kind of like taking that first step and painting the picture of what's going on with you. Let's see. And then, so we do a lot of sharing. And sometimes in that first appointment, you're able to do this, and sometimes you're not. Develop some sort of treatment plan. And what a treatment plan is, it's a fancy word for basically a roadmap of where you want to go with therapy. What do you want to work on? How do you know that you're going to get better? How do you want to feel? And let's talk about ways that we're going to get you there. Sometimes it happens in the first appointment, and sometimes you kind of need a minute after you've, kind of put it all out there to think about what you want to do. But you and your therapist definitely will work on that together. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have any answers, really. I mean, you process through this together. I always think, if somebody knew what to do to feel better, they would have done it already. Or they would have tried it, and it would have been successful, and they wouldn't need to come into my office to kind of think of different ways to feel better. So you'll also do a treatment plan. So your first appointment, you get all the logistics done, you sign your consent, you talk about confidentiality, you learn a little bit about your therapist, talk about expectations, you share what it is you're bringing with you in the room, and you share as much or as little as you feel comfortable. Obviously, the more information you're going to share, the easier it's going to be for your therapist to understand. I always like to check in and make sure that it's a good fit before you schedule another appointment. But that's it. It's a lot of the client. It's a lot of you, if you're coming in as a client, a lot of you sharing, and it's a lot of the therapist just listening and reflecting, which is honestly, it's what a lot therapy is like anyway. A lot of you being able to share in a non-judgmental space. You can talk about whatever it is that you need or want to talk about, and know that typically nothing is going to shock your therapist. We have heard, I'm not going to say I've heard everything, or that we as a body of people have heard everything, but I've heard a lot. It would take a lot to shock me. And yeah. Oh, another thing I guess I should share. Typically when we're gathering all the information, we talk about are you feeling suicidal? Are you feeling homicidal? We do sort of assessments for that, because that's obviously extremely important for us to know too. And if there's been a history of, self-harming, a history of substance abuse or drug abuse or any sort of abuse, we're gathering information about that too, because that helps just kind of put the picture together about what's going on and what may have been leading to all this kind of stuff. But know that if you don't say something in the first session, that doesn't mean you can't talk about it or can't be like, oh, I forgot about whatever. I always say truly that the client is in the driver's seat. So you are really driving where this train is going, or this car, or whatever you choose to locomote in. And I am just here to walk alongside you through the process and help kind of guide you. But it is not my job to, cure you or do any of that, because I think that we all have the ability to do that for ourselves. And I just have some special knowledge that perhaps you don't have that I can present to you that you can sort of take in and help fix you. Because you're not broken, None of us are. We're just struggling with certain things. And there is no reason why somebody should have to be struggling alone. There are so many of us, so many therapists out there who are willing and able to take on new people, because this is truly what we love to do. I love my job. When I had Emmett, all of my people that I kind of put on hold for a little maternity leave that I had, they were nervous that I wasn't gonna come back. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, first of all, I love my job and I love talking to people and I love helping people, because I truly believe that everybody can heal. I just do. I think that we as human beings can heal. We don't have to stay stuck in all the, stuff that we can be stuck in. But also, like, I get out of my house. Well, I used to be able to get out of my house. I can have an uninterrupted adult conversation about things that are bigger than just, what am I going to feed you for dinner? What time's your nap? I mean, it's amazing. I love my job. And every single therapist truly that I have worked with also loves what they do. It's such a special and amazing career that I'm in. So know that there are people out there that want to help you. And that's typically what a first session can look like. I hope that this was helpful. I know that for me, being a client on the client end, that first session can just be a little nerve-wracking, and know that your therapist is there to guide you through it and to make it as comfortable as it can be, and just get to know you. That's kind of what the whole point is. But I guess there's some logistics in between too. So then from there, you can decide, your therapist can make a recommendation. They can say, I feel like or for me, typically I offer it to the person. I say, well, when do you think you would like to come back and see me? Or what do you feel like is a reasonable amount of time? Like, how long do you want to go? And they'll say, oh, can I come back in 2 weeks? Can I come back 3 weeks? Typically, I like to see the person sooner than that. So I'll reflect that back to them and say, how about next week, so we can just kind of get, keep the ball rolling. Or if someone's having really intense symptoms, I'll say, how about, let's see each other twice a week. Let's, what do you think about that? Because for generally speaking, there isn't a specific amount of time that is like hard and fast, like you have to be seen within another week or else it's not going to work. I mean, this is not the way that most of the time that it does, that's not needed. So you can be flexible with that. But typically I recommend at least, like, it'd be nice to be able to see it a week later. If you have to do 2 weeks just because of the way that life works, a week and a half or whatever, that's okay. But know that you have power in this therapeutic relationship. You don't just have to just do whatever your therapist says. It should be a two-way street. So know that too, that you have rights and you have some power when it comes to what you want to do and what you want to talk about and how you want to be treated. So that's that. I hope that this helps break down some barriers. Know that us therapists are normal people too. There's a lot of us that have been in therapy ourselves, are in therapy ourselves, so we know what it feels like to be on the other side. And I hope that this inspires you to reach out. I think everybody needs a therapist in general, but I think now really everybody needs a therapist. And how amazing is it that it can be in the comfort of your own home? I mean, I don't know how long we're really going to be able to do this telehealth thing, but why not get established now so that you can already be in a groove? You can sit in your bed and talk to your therapist and know that it's that kind of special relationship where you don't have to expect anything back from your therapist. It is like, it's a two-way street, but it's a one-sided conversation. So know that, that it's all about you. That hour is yours, and you can spend it talking about whatever you want. And know that your therapist is not going to expect you to like then listen to their own issues or their own, challenges, because that's not what the time is about. It's all about you. And it's amazing, I think. So there you go. Here's my quick and dirty discussion about what an intake appointment looks like. And again, feel free to reach out to me if you are hoping to connect with someone for therapy. I can help you do that, because I think everybody needs it. All right, I'm going to go. 20 minutes later. Here we go. I'm going to go have some lunch before Emma wakes up. Have a good day, you guys.